Is your hair stuck at the same length? Are you frustrated by slow growth? You're not alone. As a dermatologist who specializes in hair loss, I hear this complaint all the time. So today I'm revealing 5 common mistakes that could be sabotaging your hair growth and how to fix them. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I'm Dr. Sam Ellis and I'm a board-certified dermatologist in Northern California, and I'm here to help you understand your skin and your hair and your nails and find products that really work for you. So if you're interested in that type of content, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. This video is in partnership with Current Body, which I'm so excited about. I have been recommending their red light therapy devices for years, and I'll be talking about their red light therapy device for hair regrowth a little bit later in this video. I know I've spoken a lot about hair loss on this channel, but I wanted to make this video specifically because I get so many questions about hair loss. It's something that affects over 50% of the population. And sometimes people ask, is hair loss becoming more prevalent? Is it more frequent now? And I just think people are more aware of it now. It used to just be the norm that, yeah, grandma has thin hair or dad's going to go bald. But now we realize there are meaningful interventions that you can make earlier in life to slow that loss of hair and even reverse it. And even though we have some great interventions, people don't fully understand them. They don't know if they're a good candidate for them. Maybe they're not using it correctly, or they're not using all the interventions possible to get the best result. So today we are going to focus on those types of mistakes to make sure that if you want to intervene on your hair loss and get the most out of it, you will. Which is a nice segue into mistake number 1, which is not pulling out all the stops when it comes to regrowing your hair. I see this all the time in my hair loss consultations. A patient will come in, they're very distressed about their male or female pattern hair loss, which is that slowly progressive thinning that happens over a lifetime. It often starts in your teens or 20s, but often people don't notice it until they're in their 30s or 40s, where their middle part is widening. They have recession at the temples. They can just see more of their scalp when they pull their hair back. Those are all signs of female or male pattern hair loss. And they might say something like, oh, I'm taking Nutrafol, or oh, I tried topical minoxidil for a few months, and they've never really committed long-term to a plan. And even more importantly, they're not using more than one thing. And the reality is, when you have that type of hair loss, there are multiple factors biologically that are driving that hair loss forward. And so you need to intervene with multiple things to stop that hair loss that's coming at you from multiple angles. So let's talk about some evidence-based things that you can do to not only prevent hair loss, but also regrow your hair and help your hair grow faster. One question I get all the time, both on social media and when I'm talking with my patients in person, is do red light therapy devices like those red light helmets or hats that you see, are they actually effective? And the very short answer is yes. Red light therapy works through a process called photobiomodulation, which is essentially light hitting the skin or hitting a hair follicle and activating certain biological pathways or changing certain biological pathways to get the skin or the hair to behave in a different way. And these red light therapy devices, especially for hair loss, are very trendy right now, but I will say, as a dermatologist who has vetted a lot of different products, there are only a few that I would recommend to my patients because they have clinically proven results, and I feel like they actually have the specs, so the certain wavelengths and the right amount of bulbs and the right use criteria and the right fit on the head to actually get those hair regrowth results that they're promising. So for example, this one from Current Body, their LED hair regrowth device, is fantastic. I have used other hair helmets in the past, and not that they were bad, they met the right specs, but they just didn't fit my head as nicely as this one. You can see it has these little cushiony ear muffs in here that you can actually adjust up and down to get the right fit over your specific head. This also comes in 2 sizes. It also has 120 LED bulbs that are really evenly distributed. Issues I've had with both a cap I've used in the past and a helmet is that I didn't feel like the bulbs reached exactly everywhere I wanted to go. So when I tried this and I just felt that design, I was very impressed. Also, depending on which device you use, they'll have different wear criteria. So for example, one I used in the past was 25 minutes every other day, which was fine. This is 10 minutes every day, which I find a little bit more convenient because I don't have to remember, is this an off day or an on day? It's yeah, I just use it every day, and it's only for 10 minutes, which is a little bit easier to commit to. I also am obsessed with this because there's no wires dangling down. There's no battery pack. You can literally just put it on and then walk around or watch TV or whatever. It's just very, very convenient. And I find that that speaks to a lot of my patients as well. We are busy people. When you wear this, you are impacting the hair follicle in so many different positive ways. You're increasing energy production within the hair follicle. You're increasing blood flow to the hair follicle, which helps with growth. It also blocks the production of something called DHT, which is a hormone that negatively impacts hair growth. So anytime we can be blocking DHT, and I'll be talking about some other ways to do that in a second, that can be very helpful, and it decreases inflammation. So the biggest reason I'm such a fan of red light, and it needs to be coming from a properly vetted and clinically tested device, is because it comes at hair loss from so many different angles, which I talked about in the beginning as being very, very important. And the reality is a good hair regrowth device is usually a bit of an investment, okay? You're not gonna find some cheapy red light hair device that's actually effective. So if you are ready to take that next step, just know that you're going to be investing, but it's going to be a worthwhile investment. If you're interested in trying the one from Current Body, they have generously given me a discount code, so you can check the description box for details there. Okay, the last thing I'll say about red light therapy, because I get asked all the time, is whether or not you can use it like in pregnancy or when you're breastfeeding. And I don't think any red light device company will openly say like safe for use while pregnant, safe for use while breastfeeding. What I can tell you is that I, as a dermatologist, did use my red light therapy during pregnancy, during breastfeeding, and it was really like my only thing that I felt like I could use. There's a lot of supplements that are off limits. You can't use minoxidil. You can't take other oral medications while you're pregnant or breastfeeding. So that was one thing that I felt like I could continuously do through all stages of my life, and I really appreciated having that option. Now, although red light therapy is a great place to start, ideally we are incorporating other hair regrowth or hair loss things into the mix. So for example, topical or oral minoxidil, fantastic for helping you regrow your hair if you're at a point in life where you can take those. If you have questions about how to use topical minoxidil, how to take oral minoxidil, whether or not you're a good candidate for one versus the other, I have YouTube videos with all the details on both of those interventions. There are also other prescription medications that we use in conjunction with minoxidil. So for women who are of childbearing age, we often will prescribe something called spironolactone, which is used for hormonal acne, but can also help with hair loss. Or if someone is postmenopausal, we will prescribe something called finasteride or dutasteride, which is a DHT blocker that is safer for people who cannot get pregnant because it can cause birth defects. Also, for people who don't want to take prescription medication or maybe don't have access to a healthcare professional that can prescribe something like that to them, there are more natural DHT blockers. So for example, saw palmetto, which is something that's found in certain hair regrowth supplements like Nutrafol, for example. Also, pumpkin seed oil, 400 to 600 milligrams per day, is often recommended as another way to block DHT naturally. Other things you can consider doing are microneedling on the scalp, which can be done in the office. Some people do it at home with an at-home microneedling device. You do not want to go deep with this. We're usually going 0.25 to 0.75 millimeters max. You also want to make sure if you're doing this at home that you are very thoroughly cleaning your device, because you do not want an infection up here. You can also use prescription tretinoin on the scalp. I find this particularly helpful at the hairline because it's sort of like a natural extension of where you might be already applying it to your face for anti-aging reasons. Both microneedling and tretinoin much more effective when also combined with minoxidil therapy, but just things to keep in mind. So obviously most of these things you are doing at home. In the office, we do something called platelet-rich plasma injections, also known as PRP injections, where we actually take your blood, spin out all the growth factors, and re-inject those back into your scalp. And there's a very specific protocol to do this that can help you regrow your hair. I know this seems like a lot of different things, but the reality is the more ways you come at your hair loss and your hair regrowth, the better. It's the same way I talk to my patients about how you would get healthier. You can get healthier by sleeping better, by eating better, by working out, and each of those things on their own will help you get healthier. But if you want to be the healthiest, you do them all. And the same thing goes for hair regrowth. But I find that a lot of people maybe aren't willing to commit to multiple things, and that's why it's the biggest mistake I see when it comes to hair regrowth, and what's sabotaging so many people is just not leaning into the process more fully. Second mistake that I see all the time is neglecting the health of your scalp. And when I'm doing my hair loss consultations, part of that consultation is a physical exam where I'm looking at the scalp and I'm looking at the hair, and usually the examination of the hair is completely fine. Hair looks good. The scalp is where people are really struggling, and I don't blame people for this at all. No one really teaches you how to properly wash your hair and your scalp, but it is essential for having optimal growth. If someone has a really flaky or oily scalp, one of the first things I do is incorporate an anti-dandruff shampoo. Most of the time, we start them with Head and Shoulders, but there are prescription shampoos. So for example, 2% ketoconazole shampoo, which you can get over the counter as 1% Nizoral, is another really nice way to help remove excess oil and also take yeast off the scalp, which are inducing inflammation. So when you decrease the yeast burden on your scalp, the scalp is able to be less inflamed. The added benefit of using ketoconazole shampoo, so like 1% Nizoral, for example, is that there is some small evidence, but it's there, that it is a DHT blocker as well. So again, anytime we can decrease DHT in the follicle, which has a negative impact on hair growth, the better. One key point I want to make when using these anti-dandruff shampoos, actually when using any shampoo, is that you really want to think of them as a scalp wash. They are there to cleanse your scalp, and yes, they will cleanse your hair as well, but you want to focus them right up on the skin on your head. So for a lot of people, especially if you have longer hair or if you have curly hair, thicker hair, is you want to flip your head over in the shower so you can really get your hair to fall away from your scalp, and you can press that shampoo down to your scalp, down to the roots where it's going to exert its best effects. Now, sometimes even with your best cleansing efforts, you're not going to be able to completely reduce the flaking or the itching that you have on your scalp, and your dermatologist can always prescribe you an anti-inflammatory topical to help with that as well. So let's say you're using multiple interventions on your hair loss, you're cleansing your scalp really well, it's not itchy or flaky, but you find that your hair is still not growing or it's very slow to grow. Where else could you be messing this up? Which brings me to mistake number 3, which is not properly protecting the hair that you already have. When you don't protect your hair, it's going to be prone to breakage, and it does not matter how well your hair is growing in at the roots if it keeps breaking off at the ends. And people can be messing this up in a variety of ways. You can be over bleaching your hair, you can be not protecting your hair from UV damage, so not wearing a hat when you're outside, because UV radiation doesn't just age your skin, it also ages your hair. You also could be too aggressively brushing your hair when it's wet, which causes it to snap off. You could be sleeping in wet hair, which is not good for you because it can break your hair and it can lead to inflammation on the scalp. But I would say the most common mistake I see when it comes to not protecting your hair is not using your heat protectant correctly. Now, obviously, I'm not in your bathroom when you're applying your heat protectant, which you always should be if you are blow drying your hair, curling it, straightening it. But if TikTok has anything to say about it, because I can only watch people on these social media platforms apply their stuff, and it is cringeworthy. Sometimes it's like 2 little spritzes for an entire head of hair. You need to be generous with your heat protectant and ensure that it is coating all of your hair. Also, I almost never see people put heat protectant up at their roots or where their little baby hairs are growing in, but those are some of the most delicate hairs on your entire head. And if you are doing other things to regrow your hair, you need to make sure that you're applying heat protectant to those hairs as well. One of my all-time favorite heat protectants, you've heard me talk about it before, is this Unite 7 Seconds Detangler. It's like a leave-in conditioner and a detangler and a heat protectant and a UV protectant all in one, but I really like it because it's great if you have fine hair. When I talk about applying your heat protectant everywhere, you don't want something that's going to be weighing your hair down or making it super greasy. And I find that even the finest of hair has success with this one. Now, that's something you're gonna apply to damp hair after you shower or wash it, for example, before your first heat styling session. But the other thing when it comes to heat styling is also making sure you're applying it to dry hair. Hands down, my favorite dry hair heat protectant is from Oribe, their Gold Lust dry heat protectant spray. So many of them out there make your hair greasy or weighed down. This one does not. It has that beautiful fine mist, which I feel like so many of the Oribe products have. It has that classic Oribe smell, which I love. It's just fantastic, worth the spend. All right, let's move on to mistake number 4 when it comes to not being able to optimally grow your hair, and that is having an underlying nutritional deficiency. If your body has unmet nutritional needs, you are not going to be able to grow your best, healthiest hair. If your body doesn't have enough calories, if it doesn't have enough protein, it goes into survival mode, and when your body's just trying to survive, it has no care in the world about what your hair or nails look like. How much protein you actually need is going to depend on a lot of things like your body size and how much you exercise. However, I usually say patients should shoot for somewhere between 80 and 120 grams of protein for my average female patient. That's going to be more than 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. And if I have a patient who comes in and says, I already eat a lot of protein, I kind of have them break down their day for me, because sometimes people think they're getting more than they actually are. So protein is the biggest deficiency. It's not a deficiency to the point where you are showing other signs of malnutrition, but just to the point where your hair is not motivated to grow. Another common deficiency I see is iron deficiency in my female patients. This is usually associated with my patients who have heavier periods, and so they're losing a lot of blood every month. But there are other reasons to have iron deficiency, and it's always important to get that explored if iron deficiency shows up on your laboratory test. If you don't have a good reason to be iron deficient, we need to find it. And I would say my favorite iron supplement that is non-prescription is called Vitron C. You can get it on Amazon. I like it because it's pretty easy on the tummy. It's also compounded with vitamin C, which helps you absorb your iron better. And most iron supplementation should be taken every other day. That is how you get the best best absorption. So get enough protein, make sure your iron is okay. The other deficiency that I see in like the Western population is vitamin D deficiency. So that is something I screen my hair loss patients for, and if they are vitamin D deficient, we will put them on supplementation. And now for mistake number 5, which is the most prevalent mistake that I see, but tends to be taken the least seriously, and that is not managing your stress. I say this not just as a dermatologist, but more broadly as a physician, that stress wreaks havoc on your body. Physical stress, emotional stress, and taking time, if you're able to prioritize how you deal with stress is essential for so many aspects of your health, including your hair. That's going to look different for every person. It might mean eating healthier, getting more sleep, seeing a therapist who you actually like, making big life changes that have to do with your job, your relationship, how you interact with your kids. These things are so key and really are not taken as seriously as they need to be. I say this all the time to my hair loss patients. If you don't have a healthy body and a healthy mind, you will not have healthy hair either, because hair is like an afterthought for your body. You need to have all of your other needs met. Your cup needs to be full in all aspects for your body to put effort into your hair. So if this is the nudge that you needed to get some things sorted out in your life, and I say it with love because I know this is such a hard thing to do, not just to have healthy hair, but to be healthy overall as a person, do it. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you found this helpful. If there's anything else about hair regrowth that you want to know, make sure you ask in the comments. Also, if you've tried any of the interventions that I talked about, tell us your experience. I love reading that. I know other people in this YouTube community love learning from you guys as well. So please share. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you next time.